Does even thinking about the holidays cause you stress in your life? Thinking about all the gifts you have to buy, the parties, the food, everything you possibly have to do? Thinking about last year and how you completely let yourself go? Well, if that's the case, welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. In today's episode, we have Dr. Lana Butner and Dr. Trapp here to help us hack the holidays and manage your stress throughout. This is a wonderful episode just to prepare you for easing your way through the holidays without all of the chaos. So if you're ready, listen up and lean in as we elevate your mind. Welcome, ladies.
Welcome to our atmosphere.
Hello.
Our atmosphere. We're putting up the drywall in our studio this weekend. Very exciting.
Oh.
So
Yay.
next time we'll have an actual studio to come to. We tried it, but yeah. Anyways, welcome. I want to give these ladies a proper shout out here. So Dr. Lana Butner is a board-certified naturopathic doctor and licensed acupuncturist. She earned her doctorate in naturopathic medicine at the Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine, also known as Sonoran University in Health Science, and her Master's of Science in Acupuncture from Phoenix Institute of Herbal Medicine and Acupuncture in Arizona. Her lifelong interest in health and wellness stems back to her early childhood while in ballet recitals, and tennis lessons, as it was from those initial experiences that her love for fitness and reverence for the mind-body connection was instilled. We love that. While at Tulane University, she studied exercise science, was on track to advance to a master's when she was introduced to a naturopathic doctor in 2011. She had a pivotal encounter with a naturopathic doctor regarding her own GI issues and mental health struggles, and her career trajectory was forever changed. She then discovered she was able to combine the foundational concepts that she models in her own life, movement, nutrition, and mindfulness into a career as a naturopathic medical doctor. It is by combining Eastern and Western modalities that she is able to help guide others and achieve optimal health by balancing hormones, easing digestion, and calming the nervous system, losing the extra weight, and ultimately helping others feel, sleep, and look the best they possibly can. That is Dr. Lana. Dr. Trapp is a naturopathic doctor with a passion for individualized natural therapies, including nutrition, botanical medicine, acupuncture, and IV nutrient therapy. We love an IV. Yes. She received her BS. I have a membership. She received her BS in Molecular Cellular Biology from the University of Arizona, where her fascination with the intricacies of human biology took root. Dr. Trapp went to earn her Doctorate of Naturopathic Medicine from Sonoran University of Health Science, followed by an internship in naturopathic oncology, we should talk about that, and complex disease in Seattle, Washington. Her background as a personal fitness trainer uniquely positions her to offer comprehensive personalized treatment plans that emphasize the importance of nutrition and physical health. Dr. Trapp's approach is grounded in her belief that true wellness encompasses the whole person, integrating physical, mental, and emotional health. She specializes in female health and hormones, hormone replacement therapy, thyroid health, gastrointestinal health, and chronic illness. Dr. Trapp is dedicated to helping her patients achieve optimal health. Her expertise allows her to provide targeted support for each individual's unique needs, fostering balance and vitality through Eastern and Western medical traditions. By combining these modalities, she empowers her patients to feel, sleep, and think better, which we love. Welcome.
Woo-hoo.
I wouldn't have laughed. Sorry, that was me giggling, and I wouldn't have giggled if y'all didn't know each other. I'd be like, yeah, y'all.
Here, Christina.
We're trying to host them, and you're being rude.
No. She already knows.
Oh my God.
For those not listening, we went to
Opposing schools.
She's my arch enemy. I have a story about that later. So, ladies, we wanted to bring you on. Obviously, the holidays can cause so much stress, specifically with women. There's so much pressure on women from a physical, mental, emotional perspective around the holidays to be this superwoman who then tries to one-up herself from last year, bake the 12 rounds of cookies, go to all the parties. She has all of the work events. She has to buy the food, make sure that the whole house looks beautiful, make sure all the kids have gifts. And she does this at the expense of herself. So we are so happy to have you on to talk to these ladies about what we can do to hack the holidays in regards to stress. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And as everyone listening can hear just by their bios, both Dr. Lana and Dr. Trapp, they are us. They live in our realm of really looking at health from a whole perspective, mental, physical, emotional, and so on. So very, very excited.
Well, I also wanted to say that they look at their perspective from their own experience too. And I think that was evident in their bios. So it's not like they're coming at us and coming at our audience, just going like, you should do all these things, but yet we haven't experienced the same things that you haven't. So I do want to emphasize that, similar to us in our coaching, of we come at it from understanding where you're at because we've gone through it. So we pulled some questions from our audience, and so those will be integrated into this podcast. But first I want to start with is, can you guys, or gals rather, explain the impact that chronic stress has on our body, and maybe emphasis on our particular female audience too? So if females experience stress differently than men, because most of our audience is female.
Stress in the body is going to do a couple of big things. The biggest one is going to be a release of cortisol. And our body doesn't really know how to differentiate stress. So no matter the size of the stressor, your body's going to release the same amount of cortisol and adrenaline and all of our other stress hormones. In the short term, that's going to cause issues with insomnia, mental health, a little bit of weight gain, blood sugar imbalance. But over time, we get to those bigger ones like reduced immune function and increased inflammation. So for women in particular, this cortisol peak and trough, what we run into is we start to get what we call estrogen dominance, and that can wreak havoc for the female body. It kind of just throws us all over the board as far as our hormones go. And I'll dig a little bit deeper into that further into the podcast about how that happens. But that's kind of why we end up with those irregular cycles, increased PMS, and just kind of cycles that are all over the place.
That was awesome, Dr. Trapp. Some of the other things that that stress, as especially prolonged stress, can really do, or like heightened, periods of stress, like the holidays, for example. Some of those things can really disrupt your gut microbiome as well. So Dr. Trapp does a lot with hormones, and I do a lot with gut, and together that really is kind of like a very intricate systemic relationship that we have within our body. And so when you're having a lot of cortisol release or hormonal issues and fluctuations, that also has a really, really big impact on your microbiome, on the stress levels and the inflammation levels within your gut as well. Like calprotectin can go up, your secretory IgA, which is an immune protein that can either start to become overreactive or completely null and void. And so then you're not absorbing your nutrients appropriately that you're eating. You're not assimilating those nutrients into actually make neurotransmitters and all the other things that you're supposed to be making from your food. And so not only do you get like weight gain and stress levels, but your hair can start to thin. You could start to have more like breakouts. You could just get more pallor. There's so many different things that happen from a nutrient devoid state that's usually precipitated by stress levels or prolonged stress levels.
Yeah. We see this in the therapeutic world in regards to people who have a diagnosis of PTSD. So that chronic stress in their bodies from a mental health perspective can create a slew of physiological issues. Everything from the diaphragm down is the way that we explain it. So we see that with people who've come back from war, survivors of sexual abuse and things like that, where they will not only have, IBS, so gut health issues with reproduction, issues with, for men, erectile dysfunction, diabetes even, you'll see those physiological, but then, the internal, but also things like chronic pain and diagnosis of autoimmune issues. So we see a high correlation of autoimmune issues with individuals who've experienced trauma and stress in their life. And now we're not necessarily talking about that part of it, but I just wanted to reiterate that from the mental health perspective.
And the other thing, Christina, just to highlight and piggyback on what you said, is from the diaphragm down, I think that's the most brilliant way to put it. That is such a disrupted vagal tone. And like all of those different systems that you're talking about are all innervated by your cranial nerve 10 vagus nerve. And so a lot of that has to do with anything that's going on within the core. And that can then again lead to mental, emotional things, digestive issues, reproductive issues. So that was a really, like, you're so much fun to listen to. I'm really happy we're doing this. Just wanted to let you know.
Yay!
Yeah. You guys are great.
All day long. Thank you.
I have a question for y'all then. So we're talking about a lot of the intrinsic measures that happen, but then we've also bounced around on this extrinsic and this kind of stress spectrum. Christina, you brought up PTSD, which I would say is, you know, quite a stressor event, whereas maybe the holidays are a minimal stressor event, depending on how somebody categorizes that. So what I want to know from our guests here is, how do you determine, like, when this high stress job or this high stress environment, so we've got the high stress job, the kids, and then we're, you know, not taking care of our gut health, not taking care of our mental health, but for them, it starts to appear like this normal, right? So maybe inconsistent bowel movements are normal. Maybe changes in my cycle, oh, that just tends to happen. I just kind of don't know when it's going to come. When do you decide that, like, hey, this isn't normal and this is what we need to do, as opposed to these are the obvious symptoms, where someone, I guess my question is more so of, how do you take someone that says this is just my normal and say, hey, you don't have to live this way because that's not normal? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like, this is 100% the world that I live in. My patient base is mainly in New York City, and people just don't connect their head to their body ever. Like the neck is like, it's not there. You know what I mean?
I call it the headless horseman. Yes, we walk around with like our head out here.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Like that's so, again, I'm so happy we're here. Like, but people are just like, oh, well, I'm high performing, I'm high functioning, I'm making a lot of money, I'm getting all the job done, I'm still working out, I'm doing this, I have a boyfriend, whatever. Yeah. No, your periods aren't there anymore, or they're horribly erratic. Yeah, you can make it into work, but you're absolutely miserable. So then you're mean and agitated towards the ones that you love. Your hair's falling out. You're stressed out, and you have pimples once a month. Like there's different things that can happen where you're like day to day, it just becomes wildly, you push it to the side as though it's totally fine. And everyone around you sees that it's not. Some of the things that I notice is, again, like the cessation or complete erraticness of a menstrual cycle. That's a huge one. Or where you could spot throughout the month, or have just really, really bad periods. That's a big one. The hypervigilance, that's something that I personally went through myself, where every noise, every light, everything makes you jerk and get like really anxious. That one, it's like such a telltale sign for physicians. And then of course, weight. And specifically when it comes to like heightened and prolonged cortisol, around the midsection, where it just is like right under that belly button, that little like fun area that just never goes away. That's a big one for prolonged stress, when you're just like, it becomes unmanageable. No matter how much you work out, it's there and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
My patient base is a lot the same, but in a different capacity. They're not New Yorkers. I see a lot of moms. So moms are always running themselves into the wall and kind of doing everything for their family. And that's the biggest thing I say. As soon as you start to notice your chronic fatigue, your trouble sleeping, your inability to lose weight, those are the first 3 signs that I look for, that someone is kind of running themselves too far into the ground. And like I said, moms in particular, they're going to be the ones that have like that hairpin trigger, and then they feel really bad about it afterwards, because they're like, oh crap, I snapped on my 5-year-old kid today. And that's kind of how I gauge most of them in that, is that irritability, chronic fatigue picture.
Yeah. Well, and if we think about that throughout our lives, a lot of these symptoms like moodiness, fatigue, issues in our period, doctors will just be like, oh, it's just being a girl, and then as our stress levels. Control.
Yes. That's
exactly. Yes.
Dr. Trapp.
Yeah. Here's some birth control. Right. Or now here's some Xanax or whatever it is. Right. And we never really teach them like how to listen to their bodies, how to listen to their stress, their thoughts, their feelings, and all these things. So as we get older and these stressors increase over time, they don't have the tools, and someone told them this is normal. So they're so used to pushing it away and pushing it away. So I'm glad for our listeners to hear, like, no, listen to your body. If your body is talking back to you, we need to listen to it and then get help surrounding it. Because as you talked in the beginning, if we don't do this up front, we can have these longer term issues that then become even more, become chronic, of course, and become more of a, I would say more of an, not extreme, but something that is going to take a little bit more time and effort to heal.
Yeah. You know? I would say you have the opportunity to work on the mound, but if we wait, you're going to be climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
And we may not be prepared for the mountain, because it takes a lot more energy and a lot more time and a lot more patience and a lot more funds as well.
Right.
Absolutely.
Fun's a good one.
Funds.
So from your perspective, let's just start with some foundational like stress management techniques that our listeners can start implementing today. What are kind of your go-tos, or even things that you guys do for yourself? Because again, we all here are, we practice what we preach. So where would someone start just to start managing this in their day-to-day?
I'm going to let Dr. Trapp start this one.
So a couple of the big things I implement immediately with meditations, that first day or first awake sunshine. As soon as the sun comes up, if you're up before the sun, like myself, I have a hatch light that wakes me up with a fake sunrise. And then as soon as there actually is sun outside, I'll go stand and stare at the sun for like 2 minutes. And
Not directly.
Put on a pair of sunglasses, blink your eyes. I have that one. And then a quick 10-minute walk. I do a 10-minute walk morning and evening, kind of just to start my day and then end my day properly. And alternate nostril breathing is something that has really brought a lot of calm into my life. It is a breathing technique that was brought to us by the yogis, actually. And it helps to pull us out of our nervous system. Our sympathetic nervous system, and put us into our parasympathetic nervous system.
Can you explain that a little bit? Like, what is this nostril?
Absolutely.
Like, the technique of it?
Yep. So what people do is you hold one nostril, you breathe in, switch, breathe out.
Oh.
If you have a stuffy nose, it's hard. And then you breathe in the same one, hold, breathe out again.
Okay.
I, over time, have gotten myself to 10 minutes at a time, but I was one of those people that was so frustrated with meditation and all of those mindfulness practices that make you kind of shut your brain off, because my brain doesn't shut off. Let's just be realistic. That type of breathing has really helped me to be able to do my own form of meditation. And then just doing like 5 minutes of something that helps calm you throughout the day. Like I read 5 minutes of a book at night. Usually I try to increase that as much as I can, but really just getting that 5 minutes to yourself, because a lot of us don't have those 5 minutes to just kind of self-regulate and make ourselves feel good again. So those are the 4 big things I implement for people as soon as they come in, and they are in that like chronic fight or flight state.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Trapp, real quick, in regards to that sunshine, because we talk about this is something that I do for myself, including walking in the morning. Can you just touch on why that's so important for stress management?
Your circadian rhythm overall and your melatonin. Both of those are going to impact the cortisol that's being produced in the morning. So you want to make sure that your morning cortisol is getting to where it needs to be when you're waking up, or you're going to be kind of dragging throughout the morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially my shift workers or people who, just have crazy schedules. We try obviously to keep their schedule as structured as possible, but still trying to get that sunshine first thing in the morning, get the walk, and then obviously kind of utilizing some form of stress management to calm down. But in those particular individuals, it can be difficult. So we just try to control what we can control. Yep.
Dr. Lana, Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, for those patients, it's going to be really important just for having some type of cortisol support in there. I worked night shift for about 7 years while I was going through school. And it took me probably 6 years to re-regulate my cortisol afterwards. And I wish someone would have implemented some cortisol support throughout the way to make that transition easier.
So in regards to supplementation, that's something you can take, or?
Absolutely. Yep. There's quite a few adrenal supports on the market. But I kind of shift back and forth between 2 or 3, just depending on what the patient needs.
Yeah. And we can link those below if possible. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good. Dr. Lana, what are your takeaways, or what do you implement in regards to stress management when someone's coming into your office?
So for myself, what I tell, I mean, this goes for me as well as my patients. When it comes to doing like little stress things that you can kind of do and help for yourself, there's a few, and it's all about the preparation from the night before. For me, again, just like Dr. Trapp, I wake up at the butt crack of dawn. And so I like to have my workout clothes already picked out and ready, my socks and my shoes, like all together. I have my supplements already in a little dish ready to take. My water's ready, and it's like all by the door. Like to me, having those little things ready so you don't have to use your brain power when it's not like fully functioning is a really great way to kind of like alleviate that stress. Like that cortisol awakening response, or CAR is what it's called, first thing in the morning, like within that first 30 to 60 minutes when you're awake. Another few things that I really like to do as like a wind down would be no overhead lights once the sun goes down. That's a huge one. So instead doing like lamps in the corner, lights upwards, or even candles. And it turns out to be like a really, really nice kind of vibe that you could put in your home, whether you're in like a large home or a little apartment, whatever it is, that overhead light just kills. And like you can even wash your face by that. Or like I shower and I have a few like cute little lamps in my bathroom and not the overhead light. And it's wildly effective for bringing down that sympathetic overdrive and starting to boost that parasympathetic. So that's something that I've started doing, and patients are loving it. And then the other 2 things that you could really do for stress, as opposed to just like little hacks during the day, would be cycle syncing, really paying attention to where you're at within your menstrual phases. So we have like a whole PDF on that, but even more so, it's just tracking your cycle and knowing and respecting your body when you're in follicular versus menstrual versus like when you're actually ovulating, doing the more like intense things during that time and slowing down during your, late luteal. All those things are so, so important that some girls don't even know. When I say, how long is your cycle? They say 4 days. That's not your cycle. That's your period. Right. You know what I mean? So learning how to actually track your period and your cycle and learning those, it's so sad that it's not taught. So that's a big thing, is trying to start learning how to cycle sync. There's a lot of different avenues to do that online. But then the other thing that I think is really important is to just listen to yourself. So if you're tired, take a nap. If you're stressed out, take a walk out of a conversation. Say, let's pause, I'll be back. Like nobody can get mad at you for needing to take those few minutes. And that's another wildly effective way to kind of bring down that cortisol level and that reactivity and hypervigilance that you can find a lot in elevated prolonged cortisol.
Yeah. The way that I explain it to clients is HALTS. So stop. So hungry, angry, or emotional, lonely, or feeling unsupported, tired, sick, or in pain. Those are times where we need to listen to our bodies, right? So if I'm hungry, I need to eat. If I'm lonely, I need to seek support. If I'm angry or emotional, I need to, do some sort of breath work or calm down my body. Tired, take a nap, and sick or in pain, I need to focus on healing myself. And HALTS, that acronym, thinking of like stop, listen. That's super duper helpful. You guys will learn. I love little catchy phrases.
I need you to put that on a piece of paper so I can hang it in the office for my.
I have a graphic for our clients. I will add the HALTS graphic. It actually comes from the recovery world. So it comes from like the 12-step program where there's this HALTS, but I added sick or in pain because I know for me, if I'm in a lot of pain, my emotional boundaries are down. I need to focus on, feeling better because I can't really do a lot when I'm in pain. So I added that at the end. So good. Awesome. Amanda, go.
I was gonna say it's interesting that y'all keep referencing the fertility cycle in a way, because from my perspective, so my perspective is prenatal and postpartum coaching more specifically. And one of the things that they're really kind of harping on in my community is the fifth vital sign, which is tracking your cycle and utilizing that to be aware of, if you're trying to get pregnant. And speaking of that too, is when we're talking about the stress management, we've talked about ways to identify that it's happening, coping mechanisms per se. But when we look at diet and managing stress, what are some things or nutrients that y'all recommend during this time? Or even are there different recommendations depending on the age of the client or patient as well too, where your menopausal lady may be more towards this recommendation, whereas your fertility gal may be more towards this recommendation?
So as far as diet recommendation goes with stress, one of the big things is going to be keeping your blood sugar as stable as possible. Because if our blood sugar is spiking, our cortisol is also spiking. So one of the big recommendations I make for people, and I don't make a lot of actual nutrition recommendations at this point. We do have our own nutritionist on staff. So we like to let her take over that piece, but I do recommend eating every 2 to 3 hours and focusing on high protein, high fat meals. Because one, the carbs are going to drive up your blood sugar way too high. And like Dr. Lana said, we're going to have to come right back down. So we want to avoid any of those big high
spikes and blood sugar.
Drops into the troughs. So we want to eat every 2 to 3 hours. Make sure you're having high protein snacks throughout the day. And I like to focus on more snacks than meals. I feel like when people are eating smaller meals, snacks throughout the day, it stabilizes your blood sugar quite a bit more than eating a big meal in the morning, eating a little something at lunch, eating a big meal at night, kind of like we're taught.
Yeah. For us, a lot of our clients come in and they're skipping breakfast, or they're trying like to intermittent fast, and they're doing all of these things. And, there's a lot of research on like fasting and women. Well, I shouldn't say there's a lot of research. There's not a lot of research on fasting women. There's a new conversation about it because a lot of intermittent fasting research is done on males. Right. And so, and also, there's people who discuss like where fasting comes in regards to your cycle. We're not going to necessarily get into that. But for us, it is about blood sugar and stabilizing your blood sugar and making sure we're eating 30 to 60 minutes after waking. Make sure we're having whole foods, right? Because a lot of people will hear you and say, oh, well, I'll just have this processed protein drink for my meal. But what we need to look at too is like, how is that food being processed through your body? And for women, especially stressed out women, they'll just grab the easy thing, but then their blood sugars are doing those big spikes and drops. And from our perspective, those drops tend to have them now be reaching for those fast burning processed carbohydrates. And we're just repeating the cycle, over and over again. We also are big proponents of a high protein, high fat diet. We talk about anti-inflammatory med diet for perimenopause as well as in pregnancy. And so we all are on the same page with that. I have had clients who've stayed on the same exact calorie intake, but changed the macronutrients, and their bodies have responded brilliantly. And they're like, I cannot believe I'm eating more fatty foods, fish, olive oil, avocado, all of the things. Because we always, traditionally in the wellness industry or fitness industry, high protein, but no one was talking about what about fats specifically in women. So I'm glad that you touched on that.
So important for women. And I wish, and I'm probably going to go on a little tangent here, so I apologize.
I love tangents.
But we as a society have gotten so scared of just fats in general. And I have to often explain to my female patients that your fats are what make your hormones. Your cholesterol is what funnels into your pregnenolone and then makes your hormones for you. So if we are making our cholesterol too low, you're not going to have the ability to create hormones in the capacity that you need to.
Absolutely.
In addition to that, fats are so important for brain function as well. And that's another really big thing, and satiety and mood, because it does help with the hormonal production. And so I would say, Dr. Trapp knows I probably eat like 80% fat for most of my diet. And pretty good mood most of the time. It really does help. And the satiety portion of that as well is a big deal, because it kind of alleviates those spikes and troughs because you're not having that as much.
Mm-hmm.
It's bonkers when people are like, they're like, well, I'm going to be hungrier if I don't have carbs. I'm like, no,
really.
Just give it a try. Just humor me. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so much fuller, We talked about nutrition, right? I think another one of the things that women tend to put on the back burner is sleep. They're like, I'll sleep when I'm dead, right? Or just circumstantial, their child is in that phase where they wake them up every 2 hours, or the kids are constantly sick. I feel like kids are sick from like October to like April, and these moms, the moms, of course, are the ones who have to wake up. I don't understand that perspective, but it's fine. And so they're not getting enough sleep. That then in our program, we do actually pull back on traditional exercise when we don't get enough sleep, because we're trying to teach them that that recovery process is very important. We might just walk or do some mobility on that day, but talk about sleep, talk about exercise, and how that plays into what we need to be focusing on for both, and ways that we can improve specifically around sleep.
So sleep is going to be a big factor for stress. And I recommend the same thing that you just said when I'm talking with my patients who have either too high cortisol or too little cortisol. Pull back on your exercise. Your HIIT training, your running, everything like that needs to go on the back burner, because you're going to spike your cortisol and it's going to tank. And then you're just going to be exhausted the rest of the day. But as far as sleep itself goes, that hormone picture that happens when we are in our chronic state of stress, your progesterone levels are going to go down. So people can't sleep. Women kind of just don't know how to relax. It's because their progesterone's gone. And that happens because of something called your pregnenolone steal. All of your hormones are made from cholesterol. Cholesterol funnels into something called pregnenolone, which I refer to as your mother hormone. And what happens when you are making too much cortisol is that pregnenolone is going to funnel to make cortisol, not progesterone. And progesterone is what happens to calm women down. It keeps us less anxious. It keeps us sleeping. It keeps your mental health in order. So when your progesterone drops down, that's kind of when people can't sleep. And at that point is when I start to recommend making sure you're getting your normal nightly routine. Like Dr. Lana said, turning all your lights off at night. We really need to focus on getting your circadian rhythm back in order, your body producing melatonin at the right times, and keeping it stable throughout the night. So a lot of that is us on our end regulating your cortisol. So your cortisol staying stable at night, staying nice and low, not spiking, and making your melatonin go away. So sleep is very important in the both hormone picture as well as the cortisol picture. So about 6 to 8 hours is what I typically recommend. If you can't get 8, absolutely make sure you're getting at least 6.
I would agree with everything Dr. Trapp said. In addition, honestly, if you're not sleeping, everything goes downhill. It's just a fact. That whole HALT scenario is so heightened. If you're in pain and you don't sleep, it's going to get worse. If you're stressed out and you don't sleep, it's going to get 10 times worse. If you don't sleep on your period, you're going to be crankier, right? And even more so, all health improvements and healing in general, it takes time to recover, to reset, to rebalance, to regenerate, and to renew your body. All of that takes time. That you need to have that shutdown time where your body is going to work. It's almost like the construction projects at night on the highway. When everyone else is sleeping, they go in and they go to town, because that's the time to work, right?
Example.
I just made that up, and that was brilliant. I'm very proud.
Brilliant.
Off.
Yes, we love it.
But it's true. And if you're constantly in that heightened sympathetic overdrive, right? You got to get this done, this project, this deadline, this kid's sick, this school, we got to take him to this soccer practice, all the things, and you don't get any sleep, everyone's going to suffer from it. And it's going to take longer to get better. It's going to take longer to heal. Your immune system's going to go down. In the first place it really goes down is in the gut before it really kind of goes anywhere else. And so if your gut immune system is down, then that's going to, again, affect your nutrient absorption. It's going to affect your hormonal production and release. And it's, of course, going to affect your cortisol levels, which then goes into weight, hair, skin, nails, all the different things. And so you got to rest. You have to sleep. Sleep is a thing that we love to do, both personally and tell our patients to do.
I love sleeping. I do have a hack for those who are listening. I know you guys are listening. If some of the people may have already heard this, is for me now, I'll be 42 here in the next couple months. When I wake at like 2 or 3 in the morning, if I chug water, it actually puts me back to sleep. I did not realize this. So I would wake up and just be up for like hours. It was terrible. And I now just chug a glass of water, and I swear to God, it puts me right back to sleep. I don't know if it's a blood sugar regulation thing or I'm waking up because my blood sugar's, I don't know what it is, but I stand by it. And my clients who do it are like, oh yeah, it works. So just for everyone listening. Yeah.
I wonder if it has something to do with like activating vagal tone because it's expanding your stomach. You know what I mean?
And just calming I have no idea, but it works. So
cool.
Speaking of natural things to help manage sleep, manage stress, what adaptogens do you recommend? What specific supplements do you recommend for women who are looking to reduce their stress?
This is like my bread and butter. I'm obsessed with adaptogen, stress, all the things. And I'm not obsessed with stress. I'm obsessed with combating stress. Theanine is like my top number one. I feel like I talk about it more than I even should. I love it. It's really nice because I kind of like to think of it as like it's a fast acting anxiolytic, or like lyses or kills anxiety, right? And so it's like, for lack of a better term, kind of like an herbal Valium, but without the side effects. Like it can calm you down for you to be able to kind of like ride the wave of the day, but it doesn't sedate you. And that's what a lot of people are afraid of doing is, oh, I don't want to take this medication or this Xanax or this or that. Or, oh, if I take magnesium, I'm going to fall asleep. Like theanine calms you so that you can focus and get your to-do list done. And I think maybe in all of my work with patients, I think I've had 2 people not like it, and they were hyper sensitive. And the nice thing is that I don't believe you can OD on it. It's wonderful. And it can be done with a lot of, it can be taken with a lot of different, been there, done that.
Yeah.
But you can't, it doesn't really affect or counteract with a lot of other like pharmaceuticals, which is a really nice thing for us to, because we, as naturopathic doctors, we always have to take that into account. Is this interacting with somebody else's med? Is this interacting with, whatever? And so we always look at that. But theanine's a really nice, kind of like he plays well with others. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's my fave. And then the best thing is you can also take it like in a tincture, in a gel, like a liposomal gel. You can take it in pill form. And you could take it morning, noon, or night. And just depends upon the dosages and how stressed you are, whether you have a really high CAR, again, that cortisol awakening response first thing when you wake up, like impending doom, heightened anxiety, that would be a good time to take it. If you spike at night and oh gosh, bless. And yeah, get some 200 milligrams, good place to start. And then the other thing I just want to drive home before Dr. Trapp takes over is that ashwagandha is not for everyone, and it's not a cure-all. And people will come to us, oh, well, I take ashwagandha in this tea, or, oh, I had it in my smoothie yesterday. Like that is not the therapeutic dosage, and that's not going to get you where you want. But even more so, if you have other, health conditions or familial tendencies towards certain health conditions, ashwagandha might not be your thing. It's not like a penicillin that's for everyone, right? Or for everyone. And that's something that I really want to drive home for people, is just because you had a little sprinkle in your latte doesn't mean that it's going to do the trick and that it doesn't work,
That's hilarious.
I'm done. Trapp, your turn.
My favorite supplement for helping with stress and anxiety is going to be taurine. I do love theanine, but taurine is what I typically work with. It is kind of, I call it nature's benzo. It binds to the same receptors. It binds to the GABA receptors. So it kind of dysregulates your excitatory neurotransmitters and brings up your relaxing neurotransmitters. So you're going to bind to your GABA receptors. You're going to get all of your mood support. all of your pulling you out of your sympathetic, putting you into your parasympathetic. And same thing, I kind of dose that one throughout the day, especially for my super anxious people like myself. I take it 3 times a day just to keep me a little bit more calm. And I double up that dose at bedtime because I found that it's really good for those people that kind of can't get out of their mind. So mind racing, if you're just laying there at night and you're staring at the ceiling, pop some taurine. It really helps kind of just shut the brain off. And as far as adaptogens go, like she said, I'm not an ashwagandha person. I don't do well with it. It doesn't calm me at all. I stick more towards like rhodiola and a couple other ones that I like to work with.
I have a question for y'all because you're kind of touching on this. And so say someone's listening, or even the general population, they hear these supplements, they think, oh, that's exactly what I need. And then they go on Amazon or like a website and buy them. Both of y'all are shaking your head. So my question is how, like, I would assume the benefit of coming and working with people like you and who have the education that you do is that you're going to have a recommended dosage and a recommended intake frequency. Whereas, you can buy this off Amazon and it's like, oh, take this twice a day. And it's like, again, you both are saying you might not even want that one, or also like you may need it 3 times a day. Can you elaborate on the importance of appropriate dosing and frequency when working with someone like you, as opposed to just buying it off the internet?
Yeah.
2 things you're going to want to focus on there. Not all supplements are made equal. Our supplement industry is not regulated by a single soul anywhere. So you're going to want to make sure that you're getting supplements that are medical grade. If they are not, very big chance that they have heavy metals, a lot of toxic fillers, and things that we don't really know about hanging out inside. So from that perspective, don't go buy your supplements off Amazon. Make sure they are from a good source and they are somewhere where we're storing them properly. As far as dosing goes, I have consistently found that the dosing on the bottle is much lower than what is actually working for my patients. So do make sure you're either doing your own research and making sure you are getting the proper dosing. I would more than likely recommend coming to see someone to make sure you're getting the proper dosing for yourself, because the same thing, it's not consistent from person to person. And I very much dose based off of the person sitting in front of me.
Okay.
Yeah. What I say, and that was brilliant. What I say is, we know who you are. The bottle doesn't know you. Like the bottle's going to say for everyone. Like that's not it. And so we get that question often when we'll give our wellness plan and then the bottle says take it in the morning, but we're saying take it at night. Like y'all don't know how many times we hear that. It's like, but the bottle doesn't know you, and it doesn't know your issues with your gut or your family history or whatever. And then the other one is just like Dr. Trapp said, not all are made equal and with the same quality. Not all the different supplements are as bioavailable. Magnesium comes in a multitude of forms. It does not mean that each one's going to help you go to the bathroom, each one's going to help you sleep, or each one's going to help you calm down. And then the storage is super important, especially for anything with like fats or oils in it. So again, like take Phoenix, for example. If there's like a storeroom or like a storage container with a bunch of fish oils in July, those are going to go rancid real quick.
Ew.
And you will not want to take those.
Yeah. And then there's fish oil is rancid.
Exactly. And then, same, but not everybody knows that because they don't know about fish oils, right? They don't know what it's supposed to smell like or look like or what you're supposed to feel like. And so we always recommend to go to a provider if you can, or at least listen to a provider. Don't listen to somebody on TikTok or somebody that doesn't have actual like education in the field. That's a huge one for us. And as social media grows, a lot of people, anybody with a microphone will tell you what they think. And that doesn't mean that it's correct. It doesn't mean that it's helpful. And it doesn't mean that it's valid, scientific, foundational knowledge. And that's something that we have to drive home often. We get some wild questions that I would never tell somebody to do. Never.
Have you guys been hearing the castor oil and the belly button thing that's all over the internet? What is that?
I have not, but I hear castor oil all the time. Yeah.
I only know castor oil to help induce labor. But
castor oil is actually really wonderful. But speaking of TikTok doctors, people have been coming in frequently asking if they should be putting it in their belly button. I have no idea where it's coming from.
Sounds like a fungal infection waiting to happen. I mean, really, like a dark, wet spot with castor oil. Yeah.
Gross. I will tell you, because I have quite a lingering cough cold from being back in the city, and I got acupuncture from one of our providers who's amazing. She's been working for 19 years now as an acupuncturist.
Wow.
And she did this really cool thing where she surrounded my belly button with acupuncture needles going towards it as though that was my nose, because it's another like orifice basically. But the coolest thing she did was she dropped eucalyptus essential oil in my belly button. And I don't know what it was. Nicole is wild. But she, like, there was something about like that, like ancestral, like portal kind of thing. I know it's sounding woo woo, but I swear it's great. It was amazing. And I went the most woo. And like the amount of like coughing up, it was glorious. I felt so much better for a full 48 hours. And I've been doing that to myself. And so I think it might be some sort of like just ancestral, like, I don't know, that connection. I don't know. I'm done.
Well, it's where we receive nutrients from the get, you know?
Right?
So,
that's true.
Yeah.
Next time I'll have an answer as to why we're putting castor oil in our belly buttons, and I'll let you guys know.
Yeah. No, we talk all the time. We talk on here all the time about the TikTok and these people saying that they're the ones that get me are like the somatic coaches and all this shit. And I'm like, you know, they'll talk about being like trauma informed and trauma response and learning how to manage your, and they don't have any sort of background
in certification at all.
Well, and their certifications are through other coaches, not like someone with actual credentials that went to school who, if they did go through like a psychotic break, they'd know how to manage it. You know, it's just, I'm sure you guys see that all the time. Because people are like, oh, I put, you know, castor oil up my butthole, and it works. And they're just like, oh, great.
I have heard some crazy things.
My spiritual leader told me that I have candida overgrowth. Like, excuse me?
You're who? Yeah. All right. Well, so we've talked a lot about like stress and like what it looks like, things that we can do. Now let's tie it back into the holidays. So now obviously holiday stress can be psychological, psychosocial, and physical. So we've touched on a lot of those things, but you all are doing a Hack the Holidays challenge. And I want to talk about, you know, kind of when it comes to the next 2 months, so November and December, with all of the things going on. Number one, I want to talk about things that our listeners can walk away with, to be like, okay, I'm going to try a few of these things, and we might be repeating ourselves. And then I want to talk about the challenge itself, as we are collaborating with you on creating the best challenge to help people hack the holidays. So what are some takeaways specifically around the holidays that our listeners can walk away with to manage stress?
I'll let you take it over.
Okay. I love this little Hack the Holidays that we're coming up with. I created it back in 2018, the year that I founded Dr. Lana Wellness. And it was this cutesy little like email blast that would go out, and it would be basically going over little things that I had issues with, like my energy during the holidays, my stress level, how do I deal with my parents, all this different stuff. Why am I not working out? How do I get my workouts in? Googling what's the best alcohol for no hangovers, like all that stuff, because that's the stuff that's real life, right? Exactly. Yeah. Right. You know, it's in your search history somewhere. And I wanted to help bring that in a more like large scale to patients. And we went back and looked over it from the 2018 copy, and it was hilarious. So we have upgraded. We have made it so much more scientific, so much better after all these different years of being in practice. And it's basically going through 5 weeks from Thanksgiving onward about how do we ensure proper digestion? How do we make sure that we're having a healthy bowel movement every day and not getting really bloated or constipated, which then affects our mood, our sleep, our interactions with others, and our movement? How do we combat hangovers around that Christmas, New Year's gathering time? How do we make sure that we're keeping our blood sugar in balance? And how do we also keep movement, which I love that you guys are so into? How do we keep daily movement as a priority and not let all these gatherings and these late nights take precedence? Because we're the only ones that can make ourselves do things at the end of the day. And so we're really just giving like great tips and tricks. And we've made it into this cute little free ebook with a lot of different data, in addition to the top supplements that we could use for these different types of scenarios, like working out supplements, digestive bitters, and things like that, that are really helpful for most people. There's some certain, digestive issues that you shouldn't be taking certain things, but we do kind of like a one-stop shop from a supplementation standpoint. We're also going to be working with movement specialists as well. And just how do we keep ourselves sane?
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it.
No, it's wonderful because some of the things you talk about, people don't realize. I mean, you've both elaborated on, your gut health and digestion and, sleep and how important those things are. But when it comes to like the female mind in the holiday, they're not even thinking about that stuff. But if they can begin to focus on it, they will realize that a lot of their issues throughout this time, well, I mean, they're not going to go away, but they can manage them better, right? And feel better. If I feel better, I'm going to have more emotional and mental energy, physical energy, right? To do the workout, to get the groceries, to get the, gifts wrapped, and not just be going through this. And what I see women just their cups are completely depleted. What you guys are teaching them is how to fill those cups up and doing it in a holistic way, which I think is really important for our listeners to hear.
Well, I would even like to add to that is, this time, as we all know, is the time for people to push their own health aside and just like get through this time. And then they go into the new year with the intention of having a New Year's resolution. And so what a great time to have there. Yeah. And so what a great time to have support and guidance from people like you who have a structured program to really look at your resolution coming sooner into your life, of feeling better overall, and really focusing on what is my resolution in the sense of, is it weight loss, but how am I going to take care of myself? Maybe that should be a priority. And if I feel better going into the new year, do I really need a resolution? Or can I continue these hacks that I've learned over the last 5 weeks with Dr. Butner and Dr. Trapp? And I think that's a lot more applicable than what they've been doing in the past.
Absolutely. I've always hated New Year's resolutions, and I've always just wanted people to pick up the small habits throughout the year. Don't start on January 1st and say, I'm going to lose 50 pounds, because you're not. And you're going to be disappointed in February.
Right. And what we do, from a psychological perspective is sorry, I have a puffer on if you guys can hear it scratching. What we do from a psychological perspective is help people see the psychological patterns around food, diet, exercise that they get stuck in, that literally are repeated over and over and over again, because they have these perfect timing, January 1st, this is when I'm going to do it, which never works, right? Because if they can go through the holiday, that holiday hack the holiday, challenge, they can learn, wow, I can create a foundation even at the most stressful part of the year, a foundation of health. And then that way in January, maybe I just ramp it up a little bit rather than going from 0 to 100, right? That is more sustainable. That is something they could be more consistent with, because maybe in January, I'm not as challenged in regards to stress. So maybe I add in another workout or whatever that looks like. I can add another 30 minutes to my sleep cycle. That's for us, the idea of, we really want people to get out of this mindset of the right time to change. There will never be a right time to change. And so this gives them an opportunity to really challenge themselves and build that foundation at the hardest time of the year, because then it's cruise control when shit is not so crazy.
Right.
Exactly.
Good. Anything else that our clients can, or our listeners can walk away with? Anything that, how can they work with you? How are, you both, so you're here in Arizona and then in New York, correct? Do you practice anywhere else?
Yeah. So I would say 80% of the practice is virtual at this point. So you don't have to be in one of our physical locations, which is excellent.
Amazing.
Yeah. So my biggest takeaway from this, number one is you ladies are so fun to talk to and you're so knowledgeable and you get it. Like talking to you is like talking to a best friend and like lamenting on the same things and understanding one another. So I think this is a really great way to get this information out to those who really do care about bettering themselves. The second thing I would say is don't push your health to the side. Again, like, you know, from the super mom to the really stressed banker girl, whatever it is, like your health matters, you matter. And pushing that off and just getting more stressed and burying yourself into a deeper hole, it's only going to get harder to get out of, from that mound to the mountain, right? I loved that, Amanda. And so again, like taking time for yourself, you almost need to schedule it like a meeting that you cannot get out of, and that you're going to be like, you know, there's going to be consequences for not making that meeting. You don't want to cancel on yourself, because anyone can cancel on you, but the one person who shouldn't is yourself. And so for me, I'm just really excited to be able to, you know, get our information out to other people. And so we are, the easiest way to find us is, the website is drlanawellness.com. So DRLANA wellness, WELLNESS.com. And then we have a few different Instagrams. So the clinic Instagram is at Dr. Lana Wellness. My personal or my professional one is at Dr. Lana Butner, DRLANABUTNER. And then all of our providers are also linked to the Dr. Lana Wellness, and they'll all be in there. And then I'll let Trapp tell hers as well.
You can find me on Instagram. I don't have a personal and a professional one, so they're all mixed in. And it is Jordan.Trapp, TRAPPP. 3 P's instead of 2.
Oh, 3 P's. Fancy.
My real
Awesome.
last name was taken.
Gotcha. Well, we appreciate this so much. We literally just, I feel like, touch the top of the mountain of what we can do in regards to stress management and hormone health, and really the knowledge that the two of you have to offer our community. So we hope that we can bring you back on and discuss a variety of other things, PCOS being one of them. We will be, you guys get an additional link to their PCOS course down below. And so if you have any questions, please reach out to them, give them a follow on social media. Also, if you'd like to follow us, you'll find us at the Mindset of Matter Coaching and fitbyamanda.az on Instagram. You'll find the recording of this on YouTube at the Mindset of Matter. And as always, we ask you, if you like this show, you like this information, please give us a follow, subscribe, and a 5-star rating and review. We're still running our month of November contest. Anyone that gives us a 5-star rating and review, you get into a raffle for access to the Mindset of Movement app for a year, for an entire year. So you can start this process early by just giving us a great review. We would love that. And if you're interested in coaching with the Mindset of Matter, please check out the Clarity Call link below. That will set you up with myself or Amanda to see if our program is a good fit for your goals. And if at the end of the day, you just want to walk away with one last thing in regards to who you are and what you need, we want you to remember this.
What you say in the mind,
you see in the mirror. Bye-bye.
Bye.